So I know a lot of people will, as I said earlier, they'll call you an Islamophobe. They'll call Majid, who's Muslim, an Islamophobe. What do you make of the meme of Islamophobia? Because at one time, I feared that the government was going to come for our free speech, so infringing on our First Amendment. But what I'm now fearing is that we're taking it away from ourselves by what the universities are doing, and by every debate ends in someone being called a racist, right? We know what's happened to Sam. That it's not the government, but it's the use of words to stifle debate.
We are doing it ourselves. You know, when the Charlie Hebdo incident happened, I expected all newspapers in the free world, all televisions, the whole media, to stand in solidarity with them and republish those cartoons to show them this is what we do, this is what we are about, it's an idea. And the Islamophobia meme, if you want to, first of all, you know, to criticize an idea is not to be phobic. Islam is a religion, it's a faith, it's a set of beliefs, it's an idea, it's not the people. Muslims are very diverse, and many of them disagree on many things, including the position of Muhammad, including whether Muhammad should be drawn or not drawn, criticized or not criticized. So given all of that, yes, you're right. It's not only the government. We shouldn't, of course, the government is lobbied by 57 nations of the Organization of Islamic Conference, that through the United Nations and other international bodies is trying to make them adopt laws that leave Islam out of the realm of discussing ideas and criticizing ideas. But it's not only that. We are doing it to ourselves. Schools are doing it, the education system, the press, even individual. I think that some of it is because we are scared, because we think, you know, we don't want to be shot, we don't want to be killed.
Which is just what they want, right? They want, because the fear is as powerful, if not more powerful perhaps, than murdering somebody, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the whole point of terrorism. It is they want to get what they want. So I would like to promote the idea that men and women are equal and should be equal before the law. I want to get into every Muslim community and promote that idea. And I know it's an uphill battle. But for me to do that, my life is not safe. Now, for the Islamic extremists, they want to promote the idea among Muslim American citizens and others that women and men should behave in a certain way. They can take advantage of all the freedoms that we have, freedom of religion, of association, of expression, and I give them that.
Yeah.
But why can't I do the same? Why is my government not protecting me to promote my message, which is 100% aligned with our Constitution?
Yeah, it's so fascinating because it's so many levels of craziness, I suppose. So I think part of the issue also is that people get a little lost in the definition of terms. So could you explain the difference between the doctrine of Islam, so sort of the religious side of it, versus what political Islam is? Because I think that split in itself, I think, has many people very confused. And that's why I'm trying to use this show to get people just to understand the basic tenets of all this stuff, because maybe that'll remove a bit of where everyone says this is about bigotry and racism and things like that.
Okay. So in the 7th century, a man called Muhammad comes with a message. So man, Muhammad, the message: submit to one God. Forget about all your other gods. Submit to my God, the one who spoke to me there in that cave called Hira.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people say, this man is crazy. We're not going to abandon our gods. And he carries on. So for the first 10 years, what he is preaching is, my God requires you to pray, to fast, to look after the poor, to be charitable. A lot of the things he was saying in those first 10 years would fall under what you and I and a lot of Americans and Europeans understand as religion. You believe in these things, and maybe something good will happen. Maybe something good, you know, you can mobilize one another. If you look after the orphans, I mean, what's wrong with that?
Right.
That's great, right?
Right.
And then the next 10 years of his life, he moves from Mecca to a place called Medina, and he starts to put together a militia, and he starts to wage war. Small wars that he wins, that get bigger, and he starts to conquer and conquer. And of course, all that goes to his head. And from then on, the second 10 years of Muhammad's life, that's when political Islam comes about. In the first 10 years, he was saying, please reconsider. Think about having all these many, many gods, give them up, come to my one God, and it would be your choice to do it. From Medina onwards, you had to do it, had to happen at the tip of a sword. And every victory strengthened him and his followers in doing that. And that happened for centuries afterwards. So a lot of the people today who are using Islam as a political tool to get people to do what they want them to do are following Muhammad in this example. Mm-hmm. That is why Muhammad is relevant. That's why he needs to be discussed, to be drawn. Who was he? Did he really live? Is this really what he said? If he said so, was it really moral?
Yeah.
We should discuss Muhammad the way we discuss Hannibal. We discuss Julius Caesar. These were warriors of the past.
Yeah.
Alexander the Great, they established all these empires, and then now they're historical figures.
Yeah.
That's how. And can we do that in 21st century America without having armed men around me all the time, without fearing for our lives?
Unfortunately, I know what the answer is to that.
And by the way, a lot of people on the left, liberals, well-intentioned, wonderful, wealthy liberals, think that the way that they can make Muslims as a minority feel at home in America is by respecting their icon. And I think the best respect that they can pay to their icon is to put him along with all those other icons of the past.
Yeah, so isn't that what Bill Maher refers to that as the soft bigotry of low expectations? That somehow we have to treat these people differently.
Yeah.
I want everyone to be treated as shitty as everyone else. It's not even about treating them well. Treat everyone equally crappy. That would be good for me.
And Bill Maher is, he's on point. He is one of those few liberals who is saying, I'm not going to make an exception for my fellow American sentiment. Why would I? I want them to be, I see them as equals.
Yeah.
And you know what? And he knows there are a lot of Muslim Americans who laugh at his jokes and who love him. But they have to hide that from the Islamic extremists inside of their families and their communities.
Yeah, so that's...
And it's our job to emancipate them by saying, I'm not in Pakistan or Afghanistan or Somalia or Egypt. I'm now in America, I'm probably in LA, and I want to laugh at Bill Maher. I like his jokes.
Yeah, that's the crazy part, right? That Bill Maher, when it comes to this discussion, is really being treated like a pariah by the regressive left, and they're calling him and Sam, of course, racist because of that whole Ben Affleck thing. But we've spent so much time on that. I don't want to get into that specifically. But look what they've done to Bill.
I want to say, why doesn't Ben Affleck play the parts of Muhammad the Great or something like that?
That would be something, right? He had no problem playing a fallen angel in Dogma, which was all about Christianity.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a little different in this case. So one of the other things when I tweeted about you was that a couple people said, "How could you have her on? She's a neocon."
What is that?
That you're a neocon.
Yeah.
Are you a neocon, Ayaan?
What if somebody explains to me what a neocon is, I might decide to be a neocon or not.
All right. So I think what people are saying is that the neocons, they really think of the neocons as the sort of George Bush, Donald Rumsfeld, Dick Cheney, nation builders. This idea that America can exert its influence to nation build, and I think they lump you in on that. Take it away.
It's a position in foreign policy that if you're going to intervene in and you remember right after 9/11, if we go out there as the United States of America, we know we've been attacked from Afghanistan. We get into the affairs of that country. How do we leave it? Now, there were people who were saying, we don't just go in and destroy and get the bad guys and get out because we leave the situation far worse than we found it. We have a responsibility to rebuild, and it's going to cost us a lot of blood and treasure. If those are the neocons, count me in on them. The fact that such a thing is really quite murky and it takes a long time, but I find that position to be more noble than the position we are in now, where we're going to go and get rid of, defeat, and degrade and defeat ISIS by bringing in together people who really have never fought and have them be defeated and offer some air power and just muck it up and muddle through. When the neocons were in charge, if that is President George W. Bush, he did make huge mistakes early on. But after the surge, Iraq was under control.
Yeah.
And the Iraqis lived in relative peace. We didn't have to pull out. These are political positions. And this is policy, and you can say what you like about the merits of the policy. But I think it is wrong to put labels on the foreheads of people as neocons and this and that. It's not. There are a bunch of people who thought about what would happen after you leave the place. And I still think it's more responsible once you invade a place to stay there until things are in order instead of pulling out 2-3 years into it.
Right, and I guess that's the irony, is that, you know, we know in retrospect that the Iraq War was based on faulty logic, but when we were there, it was better than it is now, and that's just a sad reality, and that doesn't mean we should be there forever. But, you know, it's the United States, we're in this weird thing. We do things, people hate us, we don't do things, and look what's happening now.
They hate us anyway.
Yeah, so I guess that gets, right, they hate us anyway, and I guess that gets to your point about labels.
It's also about policy. You see, if you are in, and maybe, I can't blame it for people who haven't been, you know, in parliament or in policy, who weren't involved in policy. Every single policy has consequences, intended consequences, unintended consequences, you name it. So it's all about the positions you take around these policy issues. And the position you take around a policy issue should not define who you are. And I think people who then start coming up with these names of neocon, this, and take it from the policy to the person, they are wrong, they're malicious, and they're acting in bad faith.
Yeah, and the part of that particularly bothers me is that they think if they can label you with that, or whatever the label is, that then they can extrapolate every other idea that you think. And they think they understand every other decision that you make, which is so rarely the case. Many of us believe in many conflicting things or have liberal values and libertarian values, and so on.
And that, plus they also distract the weaknesses of their policy position. So it's all about not having to discuss the merits and demerits. I don't care if my policy positions are discussed to the letter, and I know that they'll have weaknesses and they'll have strengths. But in order to discuss the policy position, the policy proposal of the other person, I would never call him this or that. It has to be about the policy.
Yeah, well, you're what I would refer to as a true liberal and willing to debate the ideas.